Today we'll be talking about macroeconomic equilibrium as well as what happens when the economy is operating in disequilibrium, meaning a recessionary gap or an inflationary gap, and how government policy is put into place to correct that and bring us back to equilibrium. So the first thing you would be required to do in any type of question regarding macroeconomic equilibrium is to draw the economy in equilibrium. Okay, so we would have our aggregate supply curve, supply to the sky, that's the short run aggregate supply. Our demand curve, demand to the dirt, aggregate demand curve, and our long run aggregate supply is going to be a vertical line, and we've talked in the past about why that line is vertical. So beginning at this point, you should all be very fluent in how to create that graph. Demand shocks and supply shocks can lead to recessionary gaps, inflationary gaps, or stagflation. And we're going to talk today about how that happens. You've already learned and been quizzed on what shifts the aggregate demand curve, which is basically all the components of your real GDP, the consumer spending, government spending, investment spending, and our net exports. And you also are very familiar with the shifters of the aggregate supply curve, your IRAP. I'll skip this for now. We'll work through some review work later. I'm going to skip that slide and go right to our inflationary gap slide. In this slide, what has happened here? Originally, the equilibrium was here where I'm pointing my cursor. However, the aggregate demand curve has shifted to the right. This could have been due to an increase in consumer wealth. It could have been due to an increase in investment spending or government spending, or it could have been due to an increase in exports. What we do know is that the aggregate demand curve has shifted to the right, and this is where our economy is operating. This is a sped up economy operating past full employment, okay? The market is stressed, it's trying to keep up. This long run aggregate supply curve is where we're comfortable, and this is where we're operating in an inflationary gap. So in order to correct an inflationary gap, the government will try to put in place a couple of fiscal measures. One of them would be to decrease government spending, which would in turn shift this curve back to the left, correct? We've already learned how increases and decreases in government spending will shift our aggregate demand curve. That will shift us back to long run equilibrium. Another thing that the government may put in place is an increase in taxes. As taxes increase, the consumer wealth or the consumer spending will decrease, right? The households will not have as much disposable income as their income taxes increase. So that would be another way for the government to put into play a fiscal policy that will shift our aggregate demand curve to the left and returning our macroeconomy to long run equilibrium.